Not even firefighters who are risking their lives are exempt from feminist lies, degradation, and outright disdain for men. It is unbelievable that this goes on today, and no one calls it out.
There is no denying that there are many human rights issues that uniquely or disproportionately affect men.
In this country, fathers are not second-class citizens. I know there are a lot of people out there, including judges and probation officers, who still don't get that message, but fathers are not second-class citizens. Sometimes they're actually better parents.
When men are married to women who scream like you, they just want to die sooner.
Hey guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be doing commentary on something that's happened in Australia, a news conference. It was pretty unfortunate what was said there. The news conference was about a new thing going on in Australia where they're going to try to reform their child custody and family law, and they're trying to do an inquiry about domestic violence when it pertains to family law. So they end up holding a press conference, one of the leaders of the Green Party, plus this woman. Her name is Sherele Moody, who completely and utterly is like the most disgusting woman in Australia. I'm willing to bet, never been there, willing to bet money on it though.
You are physically repulsive, intellectually retarded, you're morally reprehensible, vulgar, insensitive, selfish, stupid. You have no taste, a lousy sense of humor, and you smell. You're not even interesting enough to make me sick.
There's a huge feminist push and a left-wing push from the left-wing party, the Green Party in Australia, to basically not abide in the inquiry they're trying to do. They're trying to interview women and let it be known it's only women they want to interview about domestic violence and how that factors into child custody. We're going to jump in and we're going to look at what she has to say about this domestic violence inquiry.
Sherele Moody from the Red Heart Campaign. I'm here today to present a petition to the Senate on behalf of 71,000 fellow Australians who are opposed to the family law inquiry and are opposed to Pauline Hanson's role on it. I understand that it's not a huge topic of interest at the moment given the fires, but it is something that we do need to keep on the agenda. There's a lot of women out there who are feeling very stressed and very concerned about their futures, about their children's futures. They're very concerned about the process of the family law inquiry and the potential outcomes that could impact on their safety and the safety of the kids in their care.
So the propaganda pretty much starts right off the bat. They're suggesting that any look into the family law and how it treats domestic violence is automatically going to be against women somehow. Now, the purpose of this inquiry is to try to find out if women actually use false claims of domestic violence to influence child custody. One of the representatives that she mentioned there basically said that some women do. Now, some women do. Then that right there just made the Green Party and these feminist wackos in Australia go completely insane. And so when the government of Australia wants to look into this, now they're saying that, well, we can't ask women to come forward and talk about their domestic violence, surviving domestic violence, because it's going to just put them in danger. So we're basically shouldn't have to do it. We don't want to do it. There's other ways to reform family law here in Australia we don't want to do it. It just goes to show you that anytime the family law wants to be reformed and be reformed to be more fair to men, it's somehow always a danger to women. This is the standard argument for any time there's any proposal to change family law. Well, if we do that, women and children will be in danger. And it's total crap. It's total propaganda. It's the same story, same bill of goods they try to sell. But if that wasn't enough, she then goes on to say this.
I'd just like to also say while I'm here, I understand that every Australian is very concerned about the fires at the moment, and as we should be, and we're very concerned about those on the front line and those who are living in the areas. But I'd also like to point out that after a cataclysmic event like this, domestic violence peaks and women become extremely unsafe when generally the men return home from the fires and subject them to domestic violence.
Can you believe she just said that? She basically said that these men who are, 4 of them died fighting fires all over Australia, not just to protect the wildlife, not just to protect the people of Australia, but the whole country is burning, and men have died to stop that. And she cannot wait to say, while they're out there still fighting it, that when they come home, they're going to abuse their wives, that they're going to commit domestic violence. And we'll talk about it because she'll bring up a study, and we'll talk about that. But it is absolute BS. How dare she? How dare she freaking say that while men are out there dying to save her house, to save her life? But again, men are disposable in women's eyes. They don't care that we're on the front lines in that fire, killing ourselves, breathing in smoke. I'm sure all these firefighters are going to have health issues later on down the line because of all the smoke they probably end up inhaling going through all those bushfires. But and the PTSD that these guys are going to suffer from, there's no sympathy for these men. None. Zero. Instead, we're going to demonize them before they even come home and already accuse them of domestic violence. And they wonder why men are saying that domestic violence is made up to gain favor in the court systems, when she's already painted these men, these firefighters, these true heroes of Australia, as domestic abusers as soon as they come home. But no one lies about domestic violence.
This is not to say that every person on the front line is a domestic violence perpetrator.
Oh, good. Glad we got that out of the way. Not every single one, but most, I guess.
But certainly research shows, and we know from the experience of Black Saturday in Victoria 10 years ago, that women are subjected to much harsher, much crueler forms of domestic violence, and we need to make sure that those women are looked after once the fires are done.
Not even firefighters who are risking their lives are exempt from feminist lies, degradation, and outright disdain for men. It is unbelievable that this goes on today, and no one calls it out. So she tries to cite a study. Now, I'm not going to go through the study because a much smarter woman who supports men's rights already did it on her YouTube channel, and I will link it here, and go follow her, and you can see she completely demolishes this study. Now, this woman who stands up for men's rights, her name is Janice Fiamengo. I think that's how you pronounce her last name. Sorry if it's not. But again, she basically demolishes, and she goes through how this study was completely false. It had no reliable data. And admitted the study itself admitted that there was no reliable data used to come to its conclusions. The study comes out and admits in the study itself no reliable statistics, and there can be no conclusive data on whether people who are coming back from tragic events like other fires that this woman mentioned and that the study mentions, they couldn't find any correlation between the rise of domestic violence, if it even occurred, and that even if these firefighters were the ones perpetuating it. So the two main points that this Sherele woman, this hag, is trying to say, the study can't even prove that. It's anecdotal at best, this evidence that they use. So go look at her video. She did a fantastic job. So go look at that on how this study is just complete BS. So after Sherele Moody says this stuff, one of the senators from the Green Party comes up. Her name is Larissa Waters, and that's her here. And so she goes on. She basically doesn't talk about what Moody just said. She goes on to keep talking about this family law inquiry. And so here we go.
Thanks everyone. As you can see, we've had 71,000 Australians continue their begging and pleading of this federal government to drop this toxic family law inquiry and to take off the inquiry, if it must proceed, those extremely biased individuals who have already expressed views that they don't believe women. Pauline Hanson said on national radio she thinks women make up claims of violence to help them in the family court.
Yeah, some of them do. Not all, but some of them certainly do. And she keeps strawmanning the argument. Of course, the senator, first of all, the senator she wants off this panel is a woman. So a woman is acknowledging that other women do in fact make false allegations to get a leg up in the family courts. And so, of course, now this woman needs to be gone, according to the left-wing Green Party of Australia. So, of course, the standard argument amongst feminists is that this never happens. You know, women don't do that, and to even suggest it is absolute garbage. Yep, but you know, we have no evidence this ever happens.
Asma runs from the apartment and into the lift. She presses the button. Takes a few moments before the incredible Asma attack. She gives herself 2 uppercuts to her face and clutches her cheek. She then checks her handiwork in the mirror. Seemingly satisfied with her self-inflicted punishment, Asma eagerly waits for the lift door to open. She takes off down the hall and into the street to call police. Oblivious to what his wife had cooked up and concerned for her safety, Faisal also entered the police, where he was arrested and charged with assault. If convicted, he faced up to 7 years behind bars.
But never mind, we actually do have evidence that actually happens. This poor guy, I really do. He spent over $20,000 on lawyers, and the police. And while he was arrested, the woman who did this to him, his wife, ex-wife now, went back to the place while he was incarcerated and stole all of his things and left. And the police helped her do it. Then the police didn't even do their job. They never looked at any of the CCTV cameras. And it wasn't until this man himself looked through all the CCTV cameras and found that elevator camera where she was hitting herself. That was the only way this man avoided 7 years of prison, because that's what he was up against. But no, never happens. Women never go to those lengths to try to just get over on a husband. There weren't even kids involved in this case. And then to add insult to injury, the police never even charged the woman with a false police report. Didn't do anything to her. Equality.
And this is the person that the government is put in charge of hearing evidence about how to fix the family court. Nobody feels safe. to give evidence to this inquiry. All of the folk that I'm speaking with, whether they're the domestic violence frontline service providers, whether they are survivors of violence, whether they are relatives of victims of domestic violence, are all speaking with one voice saying, we don't feel safe to give evidence to this inquiry, and we think this inquiry is making us less safe in our homes.
Oh boy. So again, the narrative is that, we can't have this inquiry because it's unsafe for women. So I went ahead and looked how is this going to be unsafe for women, and I'll put the link in my video so you can read it too, but nothing looks like it would ever hurt women. In fact, reading it, actually it's trying to figure out how they could better help people, especially women apparently, who are in situations where there's domestic violence. Basically, the committee will inquire into it and report on how federal family law systems should be improved to better protect people affected by family violence. It will consider how the family law system can more quickly and effectively ensure the safety of people who are affected by family violence, the making of consent orders where there are allegations or findings of family violence, having regard to the legislative and regulatory frameworks. And it just goes on and on of how they're going to try to protect these types of people who are in these situations. So it's really sad that that feminists don't want any inquiry into it. They like it how it is, because right now in Australia, over 80% of custodial parents in Australia are the mothers. They like it that way. We can't actually have equality. We can't actually fix the family law court systems, both here in America and in Australia. They want the status quo to continue.
The government has had so many opportunities to fix the family law system. There have been report after report with clear recommendations on what needs to be fixed to speed up the process and make sure that there is proper training for those involved so that the interests of children and women are paramount.
Did you catch that? That the interests of women and children are paramount. Not just children, but women and children. No mention of fathers, no mention of men at all. It just goes to show you where the real bias is. And it's on the left-wing side of the party, especially the feminist groups, where men are evil, they're all potential rapists, men are all potential abusers, and we're just here to elevate the rights of women and children, and those are paramount. That's called gynocentrism. The elevation of women's wants, needs, and desires above all else, even to extraordinarily illogical steps like this one, where she's talking about family law reform, and the only way they want to reform it is to make sure that women's needs are paramount. Not necessarily the children's, and certainly not the fathers. And study after study after study comes out and shows that children need both mother and father equally in their lives, and that they do almost as well as a completely solid family unit. If a child is seeing both their parents almost 50% of the time, they do almost as well as kids who are not in a broken home. But yeah, let's just keep 80%, just give them to the mothers. And because that seems to be working out just fine for our kids.
And instead, the government is using it like a plaything, and they've now got yet another politicised inquiry to either stall or simply throw a bone to Pauline Hanson, using women and children as pawns.
No, it's mothers who use children as pawns in the family courts. They use it to get back at their ex, that they're mad at them, to get back at men for having bad relationships. Children are used as pawns by feminists and by mothers way more routinely than fathers do the opposite, because it's fathers who don't have equal representation in family courts.
I think it's absolutely disgusting, and we stand with the 71,000 Australians who've signed this change.org petition calling for Senator Hanson to be removed from the inquiry, and we at the Greens also think the whole inquiry should be scrapped. It is not safe. It is making the situation less safe for women and children, and the government knows what needs to be done to fix the family court. It should simply get on with fixing the family court and make sure that the interests of children and women and all parents are properly protected through that justice system.
So now she says the word parents. She couldn't even bring herself to say fathers. She couldn't even muster up the word father. Again, it's a smokescreen. She just wants women's rights paramount above all. She said it just 30 seconds prior to this. That's what she really means. I think she just used the word parents to try to be more holistic, or who knows, bring the LGBTQ to try to include them, because we're mothers and fathers now, or that's hate speech now.
I don't think any woman should engage with this inquiry. I don't think that they will be safe. There's a very good chance that their discussions at the inquiry will become public and their perpetrators will find out about it. I think that women risk being shamed, they risk being vilified by people like Pauline Hanson who won't believe their stories of survival. The reality is that most women going through the family law court process or seeking child access agreements are warned by their lawyers not to discuss allegations of domestic violence in court.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
I mean, this literally is like the dumbest thing I have ever heard. Now, I can't really always speak for Australia because I'm not there, and a lot of my research isn't done concerning Australian family court. But there is a clip that's going around on YouTube. A assistant district attorney in a county in Texas. I forget what the county's name is now, but where she basically said that we definitely can use domestic violence accusations as a way to get a leg up in child custody and divorce. And this district attorney was teaching other lawyers this. She was teaching lawyers how to properly do this and how to properly go after domestic violence charges. So I'm assuming if it's here in America, it's not inconceivable to think it's really anywhere in the West. And apparently Australia, according to Sydney Watson, who's a great YouTuber, by the way, she's lived in Australia for a very long time. She says that feminism is a stronghold there in Australia. So I can't imagine how bad it is over there. So I think it's funny how she would even have she probably does have balls to say that on national television. She said firefighters were going to come home and beat their wives after fighting, putting their lives on the line. So I guess I shouldn't be surprised by anything that comes out of that woman's mouth.
They are told that from the day they walk into a lawyer's office. These women are not going to the family court saying, hey, I'm a victim of domestic violence, give me the kids. They're going to the court being balanced and fair and hiding their experiences of domestic violence because they fear losing their children.
No, men fear losing their children because it's way more likely for a man to lose his children going to court or being restricted to like 4 days a month, or maybe if he's lucky every weekend. But females, unless they are terrible mothers, unless they are psychotic, on drugs, or a whole list of, unless she's murdered someone, will court take away children from a mother. No, it never happens to women. Almost never. And the only time women do not get custody is either because they wanted nothing to do with the kids, or the kids wanted nothing to do with her when they were old enough to make a decision. And that's a lot of times when that happens, it's because the mother has alienated the kids from the father, and they see how crazy the mother is, and they don't want to deal with it anymore, and they want to live with dad. Those are usually the only two ways that women end up not having custody, is because they don't want it, or the kids don't want it, and they're old enough to make their own decisions.
I don't think that the committee in its current form is prepared to listen to women. We already have one member of the committee who, offered counselling vouchers so women would have better sex with their husbands. And then we've got Pauline Hanson, who believes that all women make frivolous DV complaints just to get a step up in child custody disputes. I mean, they're going into an area where women are already the enemy.
I can't take what this woman says anymore. She
Doesn't anyone notice this? I feel like I'm taking crazy pills!
She is legit psychotic. To say that the family courts are the enemies of women when women, mothers, 80% of children living with parents are living with their mother. 80%. 80%. Over 80%. Yet she's going to stand there on national television and say, oh no, women are the enemies when they walk into these places. Women are, not men. I don't know what cognitive dissonance you need to be able to say that with a straight face, as she has. I just don't know. Maybe she has loads of Botox in that face. Doesn't look like it, but I can't believe she said that without smiling, knowing it's full of crap. She also bitched and complained that I didn't even bother looking into this because it's to me it's craziness. But apparently one of the centers gave out vouchers of ways that women can have better sex with their husbands. That statement's probably extremely exaggerated, but let's just take that. We'll just take her at her complete word. What the hell is wrong with women and wives and husbands having better sex? What's wrong with that? There's nothing wrong with, a husband and wife, being able to have sex. That's kind of the whole point, and there's no reason why not to want it to be better. But how do I know? I guess I'm not a feminist who hates sex. I guess.
I just want to point out that at the moment there are very much a large number of women who are fearing walking into the inquiry spaces because there is an organisation in Queensland that routinely has its members stand at the front of the family court and the magistrates' courts in Southport, in Brisbane, and in the larger communities, where they heckle women going in and they heckle women going out, and there is very much a fear that this same group of people who are supported by Pauline Hanson and who have Pauline Hanson's ears will also be at the front of the inquiry locations. How can we ask women who've been subjected to domestic violence to walk into a room when these men are there heckling them? There's no guarantee for their safety. This is what this inquiry is opening. It's bad enough that they have to deal with the family court and, the magistrates' court process facing these blokes, but having to go to a family law inquiry where fundamental systematic change could occur and they're going to be heckled by angry domestic violence perpetrators. What part of that is safe? What part of that is acceptable?
So she just painted all the male protesters of the family courts for the injustices going on. They're all domestic violence. All of them are perpetrators of domestic violence. All of them. Just said that, again, on national television. This is the end of the press conference, and I just cannot believe the amount of arrogance and ignorance. It's a terrible combination to be arrogant and ignorant at the same time, and then have a news camera pushed in your face. But even after saying all these things, she is one of the leaders of the Red Heart campaign, and she is was not asked to resign for her statements, even though it offended countless people. However, the Green Party, this senator, tried to, of course, put some separation between her and that statement this Moody lady, she's not a lady, this Moody woman, said, and trying to put some distance between them, but that wasn't just the problem about the comment of the firefighters, but really protesting family law reform. And actually looked to me, it was completely focused on domestic violence and how to help victims of domestic violence. It wasn't even fixing anything really in the family court concerning child custody, and that inequality that is obviously there, but to address domestic violence and their victims and to better help them. But some reason the feminists didn't want to do it, because there might have been a part of the inquiry that was trying to see how they could prove domestic violence and not just take the word of a woman. And because of that word of the woman, she gets granted custody, which apparently is happening since some senators were worried about it, because it was happening and men were losing their children, possibly over false claims. So, but this is the story. Here in America, there's just today, there's a bill being introduced in Georgia. It went through the House. It's in the House committee right now as of today, where judges who decline to give 50-50 custody have to have a drawn-out, logical reasoning and opinion on why he or she did not grant 50-50 custody. It should help judges making decisions based off emotion, based off of just being the woman. So, but there's always opposition to these bills, and it's always two groups. And one of the groups are feminists. The National Organization for Women is a big one. And guess what they always cite as the reason we can't have shared parenting in America? Because it will, quote unquote, help domestic abusers have control over their women. That men cannot have cannot share the children equally. Because if that happens, if it's equal, 50-50, somehow the man will be able to lord that over the woman and control the woman. But it's not like that happens if it's the other way around, where a woman has full custody and doesn't lord it over men. That's exactly what a lot of women, and especially in contentious divorces and child custody battles, a woman will lord that over their husbands. And they will even deny visitation. They will deny visitation, and there's little to zero consequences when they do it. And it's a real shame that Australia has to put up with this kind of crap, have a party that backs this type of stuff. And it's a shame that one of your big organizations for ending domestic violence didn't fire this woman, this Moody lady, for her extreme comments about firefighters, nor was she required to give an apology, not even an apology from this woman for stating it. She stands by her statement. But that's the world we live in right now, and it's It's not right. It's the world. It's the West right now. Feminists have completely taken over. It's not just normal feminists. We're talking about the extreme feminists. They've infiltrated government. They infiltrated the universities. Even though the everyday average woman might not be this left wing and this crazy about that type of feminism, the problem is it is completely in all of our centers of government. It's in our centers of education, and that means the social sciences are completely rotten with this crap. So we have a lot of work to do, a lot of things to address, a lot of things to point out, a lot of things to fix, and it's going to be a long road ahead. Luckily, the place that we have the biggest foothold in is getting equal shared parenting laws passed state by state, at least here in the U.S. So I try to keep on my TikTok. I try to keep people updated on the new laws that are going through, and like I just mentioned, Georgia is a big one now. They just went into committee. So if you live in Georgia, find a representative, support this bill, Google it. But yeah, so that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed the commentary. Sucks that I have to do this. Sucks that this is happening to men and to good men. And it sucks. And I'm sorry if you're a firefighter and was offended by what this woman said. I would be. My grandfather was a firefighter here in Pittsburgh. So much respect to you firefighters. We love you. We appreciate you for all what you do. And we'll see you next time.